Hello, everyone.
Welcome everyone to another BGA live streaming. Hello. So
Thank you.
today we have Sébastien Bourget, president of the BGA, and Pandora Skies and Michael Guy. So welcome everybody. Today we're going to be discussing NFT's New York takeaways from the big event that happened a few days ago. So Sebastian, Pandora, and Michael were in New York. So this is a great opportunity for everyone that couldn't make it to learn more about what happened and share the takeaways. So before we start, we leave the word to Sebastian to introduce the BGA and today's panel conversation. So Sebastian, off to you.
Yes, one second, if you can share my screen, please. Yep, thank you. Well, hello everyone. It's been a while since I've been able to attend the presentation of VGA. Apologies. It's been a really busy time, but you've been in good hands with Serena and Luis. So the full team is here today. We're going to discuss today some of the takeaways from the NFTNYC conference. We know that with the pandemic and the US still not being open to most of the Europeans, some of you have been missing all the action happening there. So we'll try our best to discuss things that we thought were really cool, the atmosphere, and things that maybe caught a lot more our attention. Before I do that, I'd like to give you a quick run through of the Blockchain Game Alliance. We are an organization which is really committed to promote the benefit of blockchain technology within the game industry by showcasing, highlighting all the potential use case, how it creates new way to develop game, publish them, engage with players, reward communities, develop communities around them. We provide various services at the BGA, and essentially we're a place where members can network, generate business opportunity, partnerships, collaboration. We work towards establishing various working group, publication, and pushing forward for new standards within the ecosystem. We also represent various blockchain game companies, giving more visibility for our members, and obviously we're advocating for adoption of blockchain within the video game industry. I'd like to give a big thanks to all our sponsors who joined. We've been supporting the BGA for a long time or joined us recently. So AMD, Endor Interactive, Illuvium, One Way Blocks, Star Atlas, GIF Games, Tevaera, Splinterland, Ubisoft, Zaya, Fear, Gameloft, GNAK Kingdom, Starmount, Mirror World, Vulcan Forge, Dogami, Decimated, Non-Fungible, Digital Asset Entertainment, Gamerash, Game Exchange, IOI, TriumphX, Drops, Cartesi, Tezos, Algorand, NRKX, Boson, Protocol, Polygon, Chromia, Nexttype, Yoshi, NFTB, SushiSwap, Cardia Chain, CoinTribune, Animoca, Brands, Dap Radar, Galaxy Interactive, Consensus, Polkadot, Simplex, G2A, Dacoco, Akanoon, Bitcraft, and BR Capital. As you can see, we have a growing list of sponsors, which shows all the intensity of what's happening within our space. We're really excited to have such great support from each one of them. And if we have so many sponsors, I'll let you see the list of our members. We've been growing. We have now more than 250 members at the BGA, whether they are games and gaming companies, marketplaces, developer solution, chains and protocols, investors, press, media, esports, and other actors into this ecosystem. We run events on a regular basis, sometimes several times a week. Additionally, whether they are workshop on various thematic, different panel discussion involving multiple speakers, new member presentation at the end of each month, the demo day as well, our most popular event. And if you have any suggestion as well, feel free to send us. And without any further ado, let's discuss today the action from NFTNYC. And I will actually be a panelist myself, so I will leave it to Luis and Serena to host today.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. So yeah, today you're part of the team, but today you are a panelist yourself. So pretty excited about it, interviewing you in a way. Um, so let's start with Michael. Maybe Michael, tell us about your first impressions when entering the event at first. What did caught your eye when you first came in?
Well, I mean, New York's just such a energetic and beautiful city. But one thing that caught my eye at first, it was a little bit separate than blockchain and NFTs, was the security around COVID was pretty interesting. That was a unique experience. So to get in anywhere, they were very adamant about having both vaccination shots. You had to prove it. You had to show ID even to get into restaurants. So that was a really interesting experience, especially going into a lot of these larger convention rooms where it was pretty packed. There was just lines out the door, and it was really cool showing up to this right from the jump. There were lines wrapped around the building to get in, so attendance was very high, and it was exciting to see that. So.
Awesome, thank you. So security, great.
Yeah.
Pandora, how about you? What was your first impression and what caught your eye?
Yeah, I definitely echo the attendance. It was just so awesome to see so many people present. Last year it was only in one building and there was 800 people, and this year it was four official different venues at 8,000 people and so many satellite events. It was kind of like, I don't know if you guys remember when in the beginning of the NFT craze where everybody was just in Clubhouse all the time talking about this stuff. It was kind of like having that experience, but in real life. So it was really, really cool.
Yeah. Well, bringing all this digital experience to a physical world in a way. So Sebastian, what was your impression about the event?
I think I have two things that really struck me on the event. The first thing is, even before entering the event, just walking by Times Square already sets you in the mood. Like, there were so many billboards featuring NFT characters first. Like, you imagine, I think like we've been somehow trained and culturally we're into the space, so we can immediately recognize when there's like a picture, oh, it's probably an NFT collection. And they were surrounding, etc. And the organizer as well, they showed some of the speaker on some of those billboards, etc. So that's been already setting the mood, the atmosphere in the city itself at one of the most touristic spots. The second thing that struck me as well was like when there was on the first day the speaker and VIP reception, we were almost the same amount of people in that room, listening to the organizer of the event, the team that's been growing to I think more than 10 people now organizing it, with Chase and Cameron, and hearing like we were as many speakers in that room than, well, as the original attendance from the very first event 3 years ago. It was very impressive. It kind of felt like really a strong moment of like, oh wow, holy shit, like that's a moment of like to memorize for all of us, and how fast that industry is growing now.
Absolutely. And well, this leads us to the next question, which is kind of linked to this one. Well, there were the website registers 135 sponsors in the event total. So, Sebastian, to continue with you, do you see this support as a growing trend? We noticed a lot of blockchain and NFT projects being sponsored. So, do you see this growing? This is a new trend. Is this the new thing?
I don't know if it will be a trend to have a growing number of sponsors. At least it's reflecting that definitely there is a good amount of money available across all those projects, which is probably reflecting the overall health of the industry, at least health from investor side, in looking to fund those projects, and those projects looking to reach out to an audience there to expose themselves, etc. It's definitely the best in conference in the industry to reach out to a very targeted audience, which is already accustomed to the culture, has already wallets and interested into participating, engaging with all those different products, etc. And well, I am excited to see that so far. I believe it's better than when like we were in the early days and we spent months, if not years, doing fundraise, and it was pretty a harsh time back in 2017-18 to reach to an audience and promote yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's opening the space in some way, in so many levels. And Pandora, what's your take on this? Do you see this as a growing trend when it comes to sponsors and financing this kind of events as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. There is a lot of creativity brewing and there is a lot of opportunity. And we've obviously only seen the beginning of this movement, this wave, and the things that people will be able to create in the future. There's no limit to it. So I don't see why there wouldn't be more opportunities for sponsoring, for investment. And the events like these are such beautiful opportunities for people who are creators and artists and people who want to invest in their projects to meet. You don't often see such a convergence in many other places.
Yeah, totally. I agree. And Michael, what do you think about this growing trend?
Yeah, I think it's just really the tip of the iceberg, to be honest. I think as mainstream adoption continues to grow, it's going to bring in, people from all walks of life, whether it's just a, retail investor, wanting to get involved from that perspective, content creators, etc. It's a really exciting time to be in the space, and if I could project it, I only see it going upward.
Yeah, awesome. So, Pandora, what was the highlight of this event for you, in your opinion?
I'm a little biased, but it was Michael's talk from Horizon. He gave a talk in one of the venues, and it was just really beautiful to see how well it was received. There was so much excitement around it. Yeah, it was really awesome.
Yeah, well, you're biased, but it's also a great project, so it's
Absolutely.
valid.
Exactly.
And Sebastian, what was your highlight of the event?
It's difficult because there's like, as we said, there's been like several venues. Each venue was like focusing into a certain area, a certain angle this industry. One was more art, more gaming, some of question related to DAO, to legal, to tax question as well. So that's very informative in general for every audience. A lot of good takeaways. I think there's been some key moments essentially around like certain celebrities entering NFT space and adding even more recognition and trust to what like various community projects developers have been building and paving the way. One of them has been definitely the Quentin Tarantino moment, announcing his NFT sale was very hype, but I think we've seen as well like various DJs, etc. As well. Also, many of the side events proven to be as good as the main conference in terms of networking, in terms of exposure. I'm thinking maybe about Dreamverse more specifically was really outstanding. The locations, the exposure, the final party as well, if you were lucky to attend it. So overall, I think it's turning into somehow the festival of NFTs. By day it's very educative, and by night it's very celebrating, but in a good way. I haven't heard any specific bad story around the overall organization, and it's always in a very positive energy and good vibe.
Great. Yeah, it's very interesting the way they are blending this educational perspective, but also this excitement and celebration of NFTs and the blockchain space as a whole. So that's a really good way to see it. And Michael, I saw you nodding when Sebastian was talking about
yeah,
this.
just
They want to add something.
Yeah, I just really like that, the festival of NFTs. I mean, that's so fitting. For those that weren't there, I mean, it really was that way. You know, a lot of networking business in the day, and in the evenings, you know, fantastic networking opportunities. But it was a lot of room for play and a lot of fun. So. But the highlight for my event, by far, also of course a little biased, was seeing our ads for Decentral Games in Times Square. I mean, it was just that was phenomenal. It was a moment to share with the team that was there in New York all together to see those ads showing up in the city was a cool moment.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's valid.
Well, I can add as well, we have a more personal moment as well, as we were announcing our Series B after months of work. So that's also been very special, but it's been mostly special for all the people involved into Sandbox. So I'm not sure that everyone around saw that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that counts for sure, for sure. I mean, it's a culmination of a lot of work for all you guys, everyone who's participating. So yeah, absolutely. I would even say that also, if I were to have a project there, probably the highlight would be for me when we come to actually project what we've been working on during these past months. So let's start with Michael now. So we were talking about the highlights, but do you think that something was left behind or something that you would have liked to see in the event that you didn't get a chance to see?
Oh boy. Short answer, honestly, no. If anything, there was so much crammed into the schedule. I'm sure that Pandora and Sebastian would also confirm this. I mean, it was hard to find the time to attend everything that I wanted to, from speakers to booths to, you know, shaking the right hands and networking, even picking the appropriate after party, given the day. It was hard to cram everything in. So honestly, I don't think a thing was left behind for me personally. It was a great experience.
Okay, well, a lot of things going on at the same time for sure. So, Pandora, Sebastian, do you want to add anything to this? Is there something else apart from this being a cramped schedule that really left you like, okay, maybe we can work this out for next event?
Well, I think crowded. What does crowded translate is actually like, okay, it's a room full of people by day, by night. Who are those people, and like how are they different from like when this industry started like 2 years ago? I think by night we had a different profile. Like it felt like those are not necessarily speaker and people participating into building projects within the industry itself that were attending all of the after party, cocktail, happy hour, etc. They were like people genuinely interested, just holding NFTs, community members of those NFT collection and project that were also looking to connect with other community members, hang out, etc. And probably one of the most recognizable community and engaged community. And I think I wasn't lucky enough to attend the event, but the Bored Ape Yacht Club has been very present and I think done a lot of astonishing things, including the party, the shop, the like, temporary pop-up shop they did, and a few other a concert as well with a great lineup, which is set the bar very high on like the community engagement. And it's definitely an example to follow for other projects.
Yeah, for sure. And well, this might lead us to the next question. So the website also registered more than 5,500 attendees during the event. So that says a lot to me. Pandora, what does this say to you about the future of NFTs and blockchain?
I think it's the beginning. That's not even close to what it will be in a few months and then a couple of years. But it's certainly exciting to see such fast growth and fast adoption. It's something that's never really happened before, like a culmination of so many different skills and interests, but directed towards the exact same kind of project. Everybody from all different backgrounds going in the same direction. It's just exciting.
Yeah, exciting is a word for sure. Michael, what do you think about this? What's the future of NFTs and blockchain?
That was so elegantly put by Pandora. It's hard not to agree there. So yeah, really it is just a start. I mean, I touched on this a little bit earlier. How I said it's just the tip of the iceberg, in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised if we see upwards of almost near double the attendees for next year. The boom of the NFT craze has just begun, really. And we've seen that from the attendee numbers from this year compared to last, and next is just going to be massive, I'm sure. So
Yeah, looking forward to it, and well, we can already start planning to get flight tickets to the next event for sure. And Sebastian, what's your take on this? The future of NFTs and blockchain, and well, the attendance of the event.
Well, that's maybe my small complaint to the organizer. Like with 5,500 attendees registered, almost 3,000 people in the like wait lists, all the issues about the European not being able to attend, but well, they were still able to make full room. Please pick up a venue that can host 10,000 people in one location next year, and rather than try to spread it out into 5 theaters with a lot of walking in the middle and small rooms everywhere at the end. I'm sure everyone will benefit, or maybe move it, like take Moscone in San Francisco or other big conference place, stadium. Why not? Let's see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that means that we might be expecting double attendance in some way for next year. So yeah, pretty exciting, and hopefully, hopefully even by 10,000. Why not like 20,000, for instance? So this kind of marked the goal for them, for kind of set a bar for them very high for next event. So yeah, I agree. I'm pretty excited about what's coming next. So, Michael, what surprised you the most during the event? What was unexpected for you?
it was loosely mentioned earlier. I think Sebastian mentioned it, but Quentin Tarantino's presence was quite the surprise. There was an abundance of well-known speakers at the event. You had like Gary Vee there, a handful of others who have quite the following, but Tarantino's presence and announcement was quite the surprise, and a welcome one. I mean, it's only speaks volume to more of the mainstream adoption that starts to funnel in this way in this industry.
Yep, absolutely. Pandora, what was the thing that surprised you the most?
I don't know if I was surprised by anything, but I was pleased by a lot. One really cool thing that would happen is you'd be walking in Times Square, walking down the street, and then somebody would recognize you as an NFT lover and would just come up and talk to you. It was really cool to see how it became this social identifier. Like, we are on the same team. Hey, we're already friends. I don't know you, but I know you're cool. And I agree with Sebastian. The fact that it was so spread out made it a little bit hard to bump into the same people, for example, or even learn about the booths that were there, like sponsors and things like that. I find that in one big room, it's just easy to do your rounds. Where people are. If there's a next day, you can go back there. but it also brought in this like fun dynamic where the city was part of the event, and there was NFTs taking over all of the billboards, and you would see people that were staying in the same hotel with you and like have conversations in the elevator with them. So there was like good and not so great about it. I would love to see it in a bigger space. I think that does create more cohesiveness. But yeah, those are some things that were really exciting about it.
Yeah. I agree, and I mean, I didn't get the chance to be there, but to me, what you're saying is kind of the thing that I think that I would have enjoyed the most. Like, hey, probably most of the people walking around the place would have to be people within the sector, and it's kind of a way to, as you were saying earlier, translating this digital experience of Clubhouse and Twitter and everyone who you usually read or talk with virtually, to have them in a place physically. That would have been probably my favorite experience if I were there. So probably for next year, maybe I would get a chance to experience it for myself. And Sebastian, what surprised you the most?
What didn't surprise me is probably the right question. I think like every event I go, everything I've seen, there's always something to be surprised about, like the creativity, the innovation around, some new concept around DAOs and way that NFT can be utilized. That's kind of what I feel like it's the core value of that event. You go there and it's really beyond like the joy of being together again. It's a networking with other community member. I think like the amount of innovation that will be born from like being all together at that specific place is going to be tremendous. And every project has some sort of this little competition of like how to show our creativity, how to, it's even a pride to exhibit it. And that came out at like various NFT galleries, at various interaction where you are like AR booth to try like a virtual jetpack at Dreamverse. Some ways the NFT were shown on screens or could be interacted with, way that some of them were shown on the billboard, like the treasure hunt in the city as well, I think. But so many different things happening that I think it's almost like the metaverse in the real life in a way.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. And actually, Sebastian, what do you think it's? Well, we were talking about the future of NFTs and blockchain, but what do you think this event might represent, or this kind of events might represent to the future of the metaverse in a way?
I think like it's always a defining moment every year. Like all communities are looking to attend this event. There's not so many that can be compared to that on a scale related to NFT. So the organizers have done a great job at setting NFTNYC as like the reference event for the overall industry. And regarding like how in the metaverse, like there was so many different drops, live mints, interaction, possibilities to see the NFTs, possibilities to do events, virtual concert, real concert, real shows, etc., versus like the online parallel universe. And the existence of the two simultaneously, more specifically at one concentrated into one location, is an interesting paradigm.
Yeah, and Pandora, Michael, feel free to add something if you wish. To add something to the future of the metaverse in a way when it comes to this event.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an exciting industry, just because like there's really no ceiling on it, right? Like it can go
Oh,
like sky's the limit.
did we lose Michael?
What was that? Oh, am I muted?
No, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
I think there's
It's like, all right.
there's probably some delays on the line.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So, yeah, I mean, like, there's really no ceiling, right? And so, I see boundless opportunity, for those who want to step up, and start, hosting events, anything similar. You can cater it to the smaller groups of the industry, or from a broader perspective. At the very least, we know that NFT NYC is probably not going anywhere, so we can probably count on that.
Yeah, for sure. And
I have
Pandora, feel free to add something if you wish. Oh, Serena, of course.
I have a few questions actually, if you guys can hear me.
Yeah,
So
we
the
can hear
first
you.
one is wonderful. So the first one I had is, did you have to explain to anyone what an NFT, the blockchain, or the metaverse is? Or did you find a crowd that was already knowledgeable about this terminology? Anyone can respond to that.
I didn't personally. I'm sure there were some people who were very new. I did meet some people that had just began learning like a couple weeks back or a month back, and they just jumped right into it. They thought this would be the best way for them to fully immerse themselves in the space. And like, it's often what happens when you start learning about NFTs or crypto in general. You start learning and then you're like, okay, I need to go fully into this for like a few months and not talk about anything else and not think about anything else. So why not go to this event? So yeah, there was space for everyone. And oftentimes in the talks, the speakers would address it as though like you have no prior knowledge of this, just giving it a little bit of like an explanation in the beginning, nothing like crazy, because there are also really experienced people in the audience. But if you were a beginner and you were there, you would be able to enjoy the talks, or a lot of the talks, just as anyone else.
Nice, thank you. Yes, I remember a few years back when this event in New York was run in a very small venue. Same in London, very small venue. People used to gather in pubs, have a few drinks, and talk about the future of blockchain and NFTs, when those words were literally like known by very few people. And now it seems such an exclusive event to attend, and everyone wants to get in, and there's a queue outside. So a lot has happened in the last years. So I wanted to learn from you guys, what's your perception and understanding about the industry, talking about the gaming industry, but also beyond that. Do you think there's a sense of cooperation or competition these days? What's the general feeling? And maybe Sebastian or Michael can address this question.
So to the previous question, I think it's hard to come and attend NFT NYC if you haven't yet understood what is NFT. That's maybe like the first premise. Either you're going to be a quick learner and from day one you got it, and after you're in, or you're already in. And on the second question, did I feel a sense of cooperation or competition? Essentially collaboration among projects, like how are we going to do activation together, like was there like anything good, etc., that we can also use as a takeaway, some learning, some best practice, how to launch a project, do and don'ts, this kind of thing that are easily shared orally among various project and community members. I do think as well, like competition, I haven't seen it or heard, but overall, like the fact there are more projects in the space, it creates competition automatically. And competition is good in a sense that, well, it helps to raise the bar, to make things a bit more challenging, and then drives potentially more innovation as well on how like new collection will be introduced, which value will be given to the token holder behind, and well, setting up what we feel is going to be the next standard. And definitely what we're seeing in 2021 around like how NFT project, DAOs, etc., or blockchain game are being launched and interact with their community is certainly very different from 2018 and 19.
Yeah, I agree. I think the audience nowadays is aware about different projects, and I think it gives a strong feedback to businesses out there and how they've been operating over the last 20 years, that actually by joining forces, you can have a stronger impact. So I think there's a lot of learnings that occur in the NFT space, simply because this way of working collaboratively through the blockchain has facilitated so many new industries and collaborations. But Michael, if there's anything you wish to add on that point, maybe you had a different impression.
Sure. Yeah. I think there's an abundance of opportunity right now as far as collaboration goes in the space, and these sort of events only help in networking, and putting those sort of deals like on the table. As far as competition goes, that is an interesting question because there is a race of sorts that's going on behind the scenes from my perspective in the gaming aspect of it, right? Like even if you look at, we'll use a hot term right now, like play to earn, like the whole play to earn space, and optimizing blockchain technology and NFTs there. It's really interesting because, for example, like for decentral games, like we recently launched something called Ice Poker. And so we did it's our take on play to earn. And so we did play to earn poker. And really it was who got there first on that, right? Like, I mean, you can't really emulate that across the board. So I think that, throughout different gaming sectors, from MMOs to, first person shooters to whatever it is, finding your space and utilizing the technology in there, and getting your foothold there first, you actually would be doing a very good job of getting there first. So there is a bit of competition for sure.
Yeah, that's. I think that's normal, and there's also a bit healthy, that push the limits of what a company can do. But at the same time, my other question to you is, since there's a lot going on, and you always feel that there's like this fear of missing out the first chance, the first opportunity, and we are always so keen to say we've been the first to do this. How do you think the audience will respond to that? Because there's always like a sense of like missing out and not being there at the right time won't allow you to, for example, perform well in a certain game or be part of the first launch or something. So how do you think the general public and the industry collaborating in this sense? How do you see like this sort of communication going towards like general public and general news and what's happening in the gaming industry, but also beyond the gaming industry, on the be the first or fear of missing out?
Yeah, I mean, FOMO plays a huge part, across our whole industry. More so now than ever with our, amazing year that 2021 has proved to be. But there's advantages and disadvantages of getting into a space, first, or whatever angle first, right? Because it's like, if you don't do it correctly, or it doesn't pick up traction or whatever, then another company or another group can come in and learn from your mistakes, and they can optimize and enhance and create something a little bit more efficient or user friendly or whatever. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both.
Yeah, for sure. And Pandora and Seb, do you think there is a space for everyone in this industry? Because after these mentioned, there will be more projects coming up, more audiences joining the communities. And do you actually believe in the fact that there's going to be a space for everyone to participate in this innovation as a business or as an individual? Or do you think it will be more exclusive?
There's definitely space. Obviously, not everybody's going to succeed in a particular project or maybe in their first project, But because there are so many possibilities, so many ways to utilize NFTs, like any of the things that we already do right now on the web, on Web 2, you can do in Web 3, but you can monetize it. You can actually participate in the economy, unlike what happens now when we're on Instagram or TikTok and we're creating content, or when somebody starts a trend, it's like you get some followers but you don't actually participate in the monetary rewards of that action. And so anything that you can create now, you can do much more in Web3. And so yeah, there's so many different opportunities, and I think it's just about thinking outside of the box, creating things that will amaze people. And that saying that like you should probably aim to be pretty good at a couple of different things rather than like the best in just a single field, because that just opens the opportunity for you to be unique and actually be able to monetize whatever it is that you do. And this space provides that opportunity to kind of like meld all these different skills and different ways to portray art or whatever it is that your skill is. And it aids uniqueness, I find.
Thank you. There's something I would love to ask Sebastian, and then I'll pass it over back to Louise. In Web 2, we've been made free from, like from companies and, from Web 2, we've been made free to explore our, individuality and as users in projects. And in Web 3, we've been made free from, for example, big corporates that have been managing our data, and now we can create our own Web3 applications. So how do you see the future of Web3 evolving from free to free from? Where do you see the next step going?
It's interesting that Web3 is becoming mainstream through essentially NFTs that are like NFT collection, NFT characters, NFT avatar profile picture, or new type of NFTs that appeal to audience communities, mostly for aesthetics, sometimes for like really raising the bar on the term of aesthetic, etc. And it's bringing people into this new technology without them maybe initially knowing about like its benefit. But as they enter this rabbit hole and they get educated by people who've been longer in the space and a little bit more maximalist about the idea of like what Web3 and all the centralization of your identity, your asset, your privacy, and the fact you own all of data yourself through the wallet is helping to bridge that cultural gap and increase the number of users at the end of the day that care more about like their privacy online, that care more about like, I want to own my assets. I want to be able to do what I want with them, to transfer them out, to use them in a permissionless manner, to sell them on marketplace without having to ask for permission or feeling being locked in a previous application like I was before, or previous game like I was before. Once you started to taste that experience, I think there's almost a point of no return. It gets harder and harder to just go back to product that monetize you as a product, essentially, and don't really put any importance to by giving you putting you first at the core, putting community first at the core, and and share the value you generate with you first and foremost.
Great. Awesome. Serena, do you want to add anything to Sebastian's answer?
No, thank you for your answer. I think it's incredible to learn how people are actually taking care of their own projects and creativity and using Web3 to actually make it happen. So there's a huge shift,
Yeah.
compared to what we've seen in Web 2 with the advent of the online and the World Wide Web. Now we're actually using that and making it our own space. So creating our own metaverse, which is going to be our own social media. So it's taking full charge and control over content and sharing that, so that we don't need to rely to like the big five corporates that everybody knows, but we can be free from that, or at least we can have that type of illusion, and control our content and share it as and when we want. So it's an interesting shift.
Yeah, and as Sebastian was saying, we are already down the rabbit hole in a way, and it's very hard to just go back to the usual once you're there. Which brings us to a closure question of the event. Pandora, do you see more events like this one happening in the near future? And let's not just say another NFT NYC event, but rather other kind of events in other locations, just spreading the word out all over the world. How do you see this? Do you see this happening in the near future, or even next year, probably?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, not everybody in the world can go to New York or wherever the big event happens. So I think about it like Burning Man. There is the big one, and then there is all these local burns, because people in that community want to connect more than once a year, or maybe they can't make it all the way there. So they make their own little event, and it's kind of like, that's decentralization. That's what everybody's in it for. And this is NFT NYC is a cool event because it brings artists and investors and all sorts of people together, and there's huge benefit in that. But there's also other opportunities, right? Maybe you just want to have like an artist like workshop. How can we utilize Web3 and NFTs best to serve what we're trying to achieve? So yeah, organizing yourselves in different groups with different goals. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and I do agree. And it's probably not something that might be happening, but something that is already happening in a way. Even in a small country where I live called Costa Rica, a couple of years ago, there was an event called Tico Blockchain, which it was attended by hundreds of people. And you wouldn't imagine, like, yeah, Costa Rica, such a small country in Central America, there is already a hub of people who believe in the potential and are enthusiastic about blockchain. There were regular events weekly called Crypto Cantina, which kind of reminds me what Serena was talking about, what was happening in London. People went to a pub, or just meeting somewhere like in a bar to talk about crypto, and that was a regular thing back then, a couple of years ago as well. So I do see this happening all over the world in a way, decentralizing the excitement towards the technology and the possibilities it brings. And I'm pretty sure that this event in particular will kind of help it spread a little bit further. And hopefully we'll see a lot larger events happening somewhere else, probably monthly even. I don't know. That's what I want to think, that we will have events regularly all over the world about blockchain, NFTs, and blockchain games in particular as well. So Sebastian, Michael, do you want to add something? What do you think about these events happening in the near future? Decentralizing events in a way.
I believe like NFTNYC and has started a movement, and that movement is becoming essentially like NFT city in the world, where any capital of the world, NFT London, NFT Lisbon, NFT Miami, and etc. Where like people wants to connect, people wants to learn from each other and their experience, and also like share topic of interest, or be able to be together as they share a common passion for some content. That's going to be amplified in the metaverse, obviously, and into especially a decentralized virtual world that enables like to have multiple people from that global culture to be at a certain point of time. While specific moment like this conference in New York has been really like the tipping point of like, okay, like concentrate all that energy for a certain number of days at a certain location, make it happen, etc. Both need to happen. I think like at some point we need to visualize ourselves in person. At some other point, like it's great to do those happenings to virtual world and use the easy accessibility of it as the entry point. And it's something we've seen before. I remember like at the very beginning of Bitcoin and blockchain, there's been so many meetups in all those cities around the world that people just explaining to other people what it is about, what does it mean. Here it's being amplified because it's many more application and utilities than just like cryptocurrency, which is why it's more widespread, more mainstream. And it's also very positive that we're, as humans, very inclined to share things that passionate us, things that we believe like is going to do an impact and positive impact around us.
Yeah, for sure. And Michael, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that we'll see, more events like this in the near future, maybe even larger, or I'm sure even larger as time goes on. What I'm curious to see is if, or how long it takes, rather, with the metaverse or metaverses as the technology enhances and optimizes. How long it is until we have a convention of sorts, actually in the metaverse, like wide scale, and I think that'd be so cool. You can really utilize your NFTs, and we're probably not too far away from something like that for a platform being able to host something like that. And I think that'll be really special, because for those who aren't able to attend such events like NFTNYC in person, we'll all be able to do so in the realm in which we all know very well at this point. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. And well, spaces like this actually are a way to share this passion that Sebastian was talking about with the rest of the community. So either virtual or physical, everything sums up, and it's really exciting to know that there are so many people passionate about the technology and all the possibilities it brings. So yeah, thank you. Well, with this, thank you very much for being here today, for sharing your insights with us. I of course hope to see you next year or on the next event, hopefully event or events, and meet you in person, of course. And well, thank you to everyone else who watched this, who joined us, and we hope to see you next week. We'll be hosting a demo day, so stay tuned. See you next Friday at 3 p.m. CET. And thank you very much for following us and following us on social media, keeping up to date, and yeah, for sharing the same passion that we do and all these people do as well. Thank you very much, Pandora, Sebastian, Michael, for being with us, and Serena, of course. So yeah, thank you very much, and well, see you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you all.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
See you.